Blackluster Soldier was the first ritual monster ever summoned in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and to this day it remains one of the most iconic ritual monsters in the game's history. Its first retrain, Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, forms one half of what I consider the original duo of truly powerful boss monsters, alongside Chaos Emperor Dragon. Together they revolutionized the game with truly powerful boss monster effects and a new way of summoning. Today, we'll dive into the entire Blackluster Soldier archetype, explore its strategy and discuss what the deck still needs in terms of future supports. First, we're starting off with the deck's main boss monsters: Blackluster Soldier, Legendary Swordsman, Super Soldier, and Envoy of the Beginning. Envoy is one of the most iconic monsters in the game. It can be special summoned by simply banishing a light and a dark monster from the graveyard. Once per turn, you can choose to either banish one monster on the field instead of attacking, or make a second attack in a row after destroying a monster by battle. This card has obviously been power crept over the past 20 years, and it isn't nearly the threat it once was. But it still feels powerful when playing in a more casual, low power level format with friends. Setting up the graveyard with a light and dark monster was definitely more difficult when this card was first introduced. But in today's game, even casually, it's much easier. This card never made an appearance in the original anime unfortunately, but we did see it in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, when a copycat duelist named Dimitri stole Yugi's deck. Jaden had to duel him to win it back, and Dimitri summoned Envoy of the Beginning, confirming that Yugi eventually added it to his deck. Which is really cool because we did see Kaiba using its counterpart, Chaos Emperor Dragon, in the final season of the original show. Bastion even mentioned how Chaos Emperor Dragon was a card so very powerful it had been outlawed in official Duel Monsters tournaments, and how Blackluster Soldier had comparable power but was never forbidden due to its scarcity. As far as I know, this was the first time the anime referenced the existence of a Forbidden Unlimited list, and it's awesome that it was in the context of these two legendary boss monsters. Ironically, the English dub of this episode aired on November 21st, 2005. Just a few weeks after Envoy of the Beginning was banned on the October 1st, 2005 ban list. So at the time they were dubbing the episode, Bastion's statement was probably correct. Luckily, this card is now fully unlimited so we can use it to our heart's content. Next, Legendary Swordsman prevents your opponent from activating cards or effects in the battle phase. If it was ritual summoned using a normal monster and destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it shuffles all cards your opponent controls back into the deck. So yeah, a crazy good effect that will very likely win you the duel if you can pull it off. Though one of the deck's main challenges is being able to do that consistently. It also has a pretty unique effect during the draw phase. Instead of drawing a card, you can reveal this card in your hand and search for any ritual spell instead. I think this effect is a fun nod to the moment when Blackluster Soldier was first summoned in the anime. Yugi was on the verge of defeat against Mai, and in one of the biggest heart of the card style moments in the series, drew the Blackluster ritual to summon Blackluster Soldier and win the duel. This effect essentially lets you draw the ritual spell at just the right moment, mirroring that iconic heart of the cards moment from the duel. It's pretty cool, but after playing the deck for a few weeks I haven't used it very often, but it's there if you need it. And if your opponent uses something like Ash Blossom to negate it, you're still allowed to draw a card. Super Soldier also has a battle phase effect. If it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, it inflicts damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack in the graveyard. If Super Soldier is destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can special summon one Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from your hand, deck or graveyard. These are our main boss monsters at their standard power level, sharing the exact same stats with the original Blackluster Soldier. But this deck has a unique way of enhancing the ritual boss monsters, by using specific materials during the ritual. These boss monsters inherit additional abilities. The two key materials for this are Beginning Night, a light monster, and Evening Twilight Night, a dark monster. If you use Beginning Night to ritual summon a Blackluster Soldier monster, that monster gains two abilities. It can banish one monster on your opponent's field, and it can make a second attack after destroying a monster by battle. Sounds familiar? That's because Beginning Night gives the ritual BLS the same powers as its older counterpart, Envoy of the Beginning. Evening Twilight Night also grants the Banish a Monster effect, but the second ability lets you banish one random card from your opponent's hand face down until your opponent's next end phase. These are the exact same abilities of Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning Twilight. And these effects stack, by the way. If you use both Beginning Night and Evening Twilight Night to ritual summon a BLS monster, it can target and banish two monsters, banish a card from their hand, and attack twice. Both nights also have useful effects when they're banished from the graveyard. Beginning Night lets you search for any ritual spell, and Evening Twilight Night searches for any ritual monster. Ideally, you use these two knights first to summon one of your ritual monsters, then you can banish both to summon Envoy of the Beginning, triggering their effects to search another ritual monster and ritual spell, setting you up for another ritual summon. Now for the rest of the Blackluster Soldier main deck monsters. Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Evening Twilight is the older version of Evening Twilight Knight. It can be special summoned by either banishing all light or all dark monsters in your grave, while you have an equal number of each in the graveyard. If you banish light monsters, you can target and banish one monster on the field. If you banish dark monsters, you get to banish one random card from your opponent's hand face down until their next end phase. Blackluster Soldier Sacred Soldier can, when it's normal special summoned, banish one card your opponent controls, by returning one of your banished light or dark monsters to the graveyard. Plus, if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it recycles a level 7 or lower warrior monster from your graveyard back to your hand. Next we have two smaller forms tied to Super Soldier, Envoy of Chaos and Super Soldier Soul. Envoy of Chaos can be discarded during the battle phase, to give any Blackluster Soldier or Gaia the Fierce Knight monster a 1500 attack boost until the end of the turn. It also resets the opponent's monster's attack back to its original value if it battles that monster, and during the end phase you can add it back to your hand by banishing a light and dark monster from your graveyard. Super Soldier Soul looks just like the armor of Blackluster Soldier, waiting for the ritual to begin. It can transform into Blackluster Soldier by discarding a Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand, and its attack becomes 3000 until the opponent's next end phase. It can also be banished from the graveyard to search for either Beginning Knight or Evening Twilight Knight. Unfortunately, these cards are pretty underwhelming. The boss monsters are too difficult to summon reliably, so it's usually more effective to focus on the ritual boss monsters and Envoy of the Beginning. Envoy of Chaos can come in clutch in specific situations, potentially helping you to secure an OTK, but it's often too situational. And that's it for the BLS monsters. Now for the spell cards, it all started with Blackluster Ritual, the card Yugi used to summon Blackluster Soldier. It debuted way back in 2004 with Starter Deck Yugi Evolution. After that we went a staggering 11 years without any ritual spells for BLS, but that changed in the mid-2010s. In 2015, Dimension of Chaos gave us Super Soldier Ritual. A year later, in 2016, the Dark Side of Dimensions movie pack brought Chaos Form into the mix, and by 2017, Raging Tempest introduced Super Soldier Synthesis. Super Soldier Ritual lets you ritual summon a BLS monster by tributing monsters from your hand or field. It has a cool secondary effect to turn after it's sent to the graveyard. You can banish it along with a light and dark monster from your graveyard to ritual summon a Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand, ignoring the usual summoning conditions. Pretty neat. Chaos Form can be used to ritual summon BLS monsters as well as Chaos Ritual monsters, which currently only include the Blue Eyes and Dark Magician ritual monsters. You can tribute monsters from your hand or field, or even banish Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician from your graveyard. However, this card isn't the greatest option for BLS decks. Its main upside is the ability to banish materials from the graveyards. But including Blue Eyes or Dark Magician in your build would make an already clunky deck even brickier. Thankfully, we didn't have to wait long for a better solution: Super Soldier Synthesis. This card is a fantastic addition. It allows you to ritual summon a BLS monster from your hand or graveyard by sending one light monster and one dark monster to the graveyard, with one coming from your hand and the other directly from the deck. This is incredible for two reasons. It makes summoning BLS ritual monsters much easier, and it also sets up your graveyard for a chaos summon of Envoy of the Beginning. Next up, the Archetype's field spell, Gateway to Chaos, a great consistency card. It searches a Blackluster Soldier ritual monster or a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster when activated. It also gains a spell counter each time a monster card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard. You can remove 3 of the maximum 6 spell counters to search your deck for a ritual spell. This card is a reference to the very first moment Blackluster Soldier was summoned in the anime, where tributing his monsters and combining their separate energies opened the gates of chaos. By running through it, Gaia the Fierce Knight became the Blackluster Soldier. Finally, the last couple of spells. Primal Seed can add 2 of your banished cards back to your hand if you control Envoy of the Beginning or Envoy of the End. Chaos Seed is not technically a BLS card, but it's shown on the artwork. You can add a banished light or dark warrior monster back to your hand if you control both a light and dark monster. However, neither card is really worth running in a modern BLS deck. An honorable mention here is Chaos Spades, which, though not technically a BLS card, supports Chaos strategies and features Gateway of Chaos on the artwork. It enables you to search a light or dark monster between level 4 and 8 that cannot be normal summoned or set, By sending a light monster, you can search for a dark, and vice versa. Additionally, you can banish Chaos Space from the graveyard to return one banished monster that cannot be normal summoned or set to the bottom of the deck, and then draw a card. Finally, let's talk about BLS traps. Super Soldier Shield is a counter trap that can negate the activation of a spell, trap, or a monster effect that targets a monster on the field, as long as you control a Blackluster Soldier monster. Super Soldier Rebirth sends a Blackluster Soldier monster you control to the graveyard, and then lets you special summon any Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. Beginning of Heaven and Earth has you reveal 3 warrior monsters from your deck, including at least one Gaia or BLS monster. Your opponent chooses one randomly. If it's a BLS or Gaia monster, it's added to your hand, if not they all go to the graveyard. Unfortunately, these traps are too situational and don't add enough value, so they aren't worth including in most builds. And that's it for the main deck Blackluster Soldier cards. But we do have one Blackluster Soldier extra deck card, along with a couple of others that are related to the BLS theme. Starting with Soldier of Chaos, the only true BLS extra deck monster. This card is quite strong. It requires 3 monsters with different names to summon, and if one of them is level 7 or higher, it becomes untargetable and indestructible by card effects. When it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can choose one of 3 effects. It gains 1500 attack, it can make a second attack during the next battle phase, or it banishes one card on the field, non-targeting. Despite how good this card is, I found I've rarely summoned it in my BLS decks. Since ritual BLS monsters require so many resources to summon, there often aren't enough left to bring this one out. It's a bit of a shame as it fits the deck strategy very well. Next we have Master of Chaos, a fusion of Dark Magician and a Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster. On fusion summon, it revives a light or dark monster from the graveyard. It can also tribute a light or dark monster to banish all cards the opponent controls. Finally, if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add any spell card from the grave back to your hand. A nice nod to the Dark Magician of Chaos' original effects. Though Master of Chaos has some powerful effects, it leans more towards Dark Magician support than BLS. Without an in-archetype fusion spell for BLS, summoning it requires a mix with Dark Magician, which makes the deck even brickier. It's a pity because this card's effects would work well with the BLS strategy of going second and aiming for an OTK. Next up is Dragon Master Knight, a fusion of Blackluster Soldier and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. While it has a massive 5000 attack, its only effect is gaining 500 attack for each dragon you control. Recently, however, this card received an incredible retrain, Dragon Master Magia. Dragon Master Magia is a fusion of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and a Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster, though this time it features Dark Magician of Chaos standing atop it. It has an amazing effect, allowing you to negate the activation of each card type, monster, spell, and trap, once per turn. And if it leaves the field, you can special summon a Blue Eyes, Chaos, or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster from either your extra deck or graveyard. It's an incredible and powerful card. I did try to make this work in a BLS deck, but it pretty much means you have to dedicate your entire deck around it, which unfortunately does not make it feel like a BLS deck anymore. And that wraps up all of the Blackluster Soldier cards. There are quite a few ways to play a BLS deck. Right now, a popular approach is combining BLS with Bestials, which offer great synergy with the Chaos strategy. Alternatively, you can build it more focused around the Chaos mechanic or paired with archetypes like Horus. I've tested all of these versions of BLS and they have 2 things in common. They're focused on going second for an OTK, because Blackluster Soldier has almost no way to interact on the opponent's turn. No matter the version, the deck feels clunky, lacking modern consistency and reliable search options. The gateway to Chaos field spell can only search for a BLS ritual monster. Chaos Space is the only card that can fetch Envoy of the Beginning, but is limited to 1 copy because of its power in other decks. The Mini Knights aren't searchable except by banishing Super Soldier Soul from the graveyard, which takes a lot of effort for a little payoff. The BLS ritual monsters are Earth types, so they don't mix well with the Chaos Light and Dark strategy. And the deck cannot rely on generic ritual support cards for consistency either. Preparation of Rise can only search level 7 or lower ritual monsters, while BLS is level 8. Pre-preparation of Rise requires a ritual spell that specifically mentions the ritual monster's name, but the BLS ritual spells only mention a BLS monster, making it unusable here. And even when built for going second, the deck struggles to consistently deal enough damage. This deck is in dire need for a modern upgrade. I think Konami had the right idea with the BLS cards we received around 2015, blending the iconic ritual part of Blackluster Soldier with the game-changing chaos aspect of Envoy of the Beginning. Upgrading your boss monsters by using certain materials in the ritual is definitely a very cool mechanic. I hope they continue this approach in the future and balance the deck around the same power level as other recent anime archetypes, like Shining Sarcophagus, Gate Guardian, and Max Metalmorph. Here are some ideas for a new generation of BLS cards. First, let's address the consistency and clunkiness, with Preparation of Chaos, a rights card specifically for BLS. Add a Blackluster Soldier monster, or a monster that mentions it from your deck or banishment to your hand. Then add a Super Soldier spell from your deck to your hand. This lets you choose which ritual spell to add, whether Super Soldier Synthesis, Super Soldier Ritual, or any potential new ritual spell we might get in the future. I didn't restrict this card to searching only BLS ritual monsters since the field spell already covers that. You can also banish this card from the graveyard to target one of your banished light or dark monsters, return it to the graveyard, and then draw a card. This card combines the effects of a rights card for BLS with Chaos Space, improving consistency and utility. Next we have two new starter cards inspired by Beginning Night and Evening Twilight Night, Apprentice of Chaos and Disciple of Chaos. Both monsters can be special summoned if the other one is on the field. When summoned, Apprentice can search for any BLS monster, and Disciple searches for any BLS spell or trap card. If both monsters are on the field simultaneously, Apprentice can activate Gateway to Chaos straight from the deck. And while Gateway to Chaos is on the field, both monsters can also be banished from the graveyard as material for the ritual summon of a BLS monster. Apprentice of Chaos gives the BLS ritual monster battle destruction protection until the end of the opponent's end phase. And Disciple gives it the ability to banish one card on the field. These cards help you set up your BLS ritual summons, adding extra abilities, either for defense when going first or for removal when going second. And they set up the summon of your second ritual monster or envoy of the beginning. Next, let's talk about a game plan for going first, something the deck currently lacks. One idea is to introduce a Dragon Master Magia style card but specifically for Blackluster Soldier. We never saw Tamias combined with BLS in the anime, and Tamias always gave me ritual vibes because of its blue borders on the card. This could be the perfect opportunity to introduce something like Blackluster Soldier, Legendary Dragon Soldier. This monster can only be summoned by using Legendary Dragon Super Soldier and tributing a Blackluster Soldier monster as material. This card cannot be targeted by card effects. It can also not be destroyed by card effects until the opponent's next end phase. This protection effect makes this card immediately a pretty difficult card to deal with, while not making it impossible to out during your next turn for the opponent, more focused on defense and surviving the opponent's turn. If this card leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon a Blackluster Soldier monster or a monster that mentions it from your deck, extra deck, or banishments. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. When your opponent activates a monster effect, return one banished light monster back to the graveyard, negate that effect. Quick effect: return one banished dark monster back to the graveyard, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. This card can be summoned by a new spell, Legendary Dragon Super Soldier. Activate one of the following effects. Tribute one Blackluster Soldier monster you control, fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck that mentions a Blackluster Soldier monster as material. This spell card can ritual summon any Blackluster Soldier monster by tributing monsters from your hand, field, or if you control Gateway to Chaos, you can also banish materials from the graveyard. This card keeps the theme of Tamias in the anime, which was actually considered as a spell card and used to fuse it with any monster Yugi had on the field. And that's it for all the Blackluster Soldier cards and ideas I would like to see. Let me know in the comments what kind of future support you want to see for BLS, and consider subscribing if you don't want to miss out on any future videos. I see you later.